This is page 204. This is an Explore activity that you could probably do a lot of on your own. So if you'd like to try, hit pause now, try the page, and then hit play when you're ready to resume. Connecting fractions and percents. You can use a percent bar model to model a ratio expressed as a fraction and to find an equivalent percent. Let's check this out. This first one's really pretty easy, but I'll help you. Question A reads, use a percent bar model to find an equivalent percent for 1/4, draw a model to represent 100, and divide it into fourths, and then shade 1/4. Well, if you shaded 1/4, it would be this set right here. And 1/4 of 100% is, and they kind of do it right down here, it's 25%. 1/4 of 100 equals 25, so 1/4 of 100% equals 25%. And then right down here, they ask us the same exact question, but they want to kind of review a math problem. It was in Module 4. In previous problems, we solved a problem like this: 1/4 of 100. That means multiplication. So 1/4. It says tell which operation. Watch. 1/4 of 100 means 1/4 times 100, which is 100 over 1. Now it's really kind of interesting because we're going to say that the operation is multiplication, but you actually divide, because you do 100 times 1, which is 100, over 4, which is 4, or 1 times 4 is 4, and 100 over 4 equals 25. So it's really kind of both. It's multiplication and division. I think technically the answer is multiplication though. So I guess we never really even wrote that. So I think what I'm going to do is erase this part right here and write it as multiplication. What's the operation? It says right here, tell which operation. It's multiplication. It's 1/4 times 100. 25. Okay, moving on. Now question B. This is the tricky part, but I'm going to help you. It says use a percent bar model to find an equivalent percent for 1/3. Draw and model and divide it into thirds. Shade 1/3. So let's think about what this needs to be. The whole thing is 100, and we're shading 1/3 of it. Now whatever answer you put here, when you multiply it by 3 to check your answer, it needs to be 100. So I've had kids in the past, guess 30. That's a good guess. But if we did that, then that means that if we multiplied it by 3, it would be 100. What's 30 times 3? It's not 100. 30 times 3 is 90. And there's 3 of these exactly. That's what kind of thirds means. It means if we multiply by 3, it would be the whole thing. So how do we figure this out? Let's go read it. It says 1/3 of 100 is 33 and 1/3. So 1/3 of 100 is, well, they kind of give us the answer. It's 33 and 1/3. Or there's another way. It's 33.3 repeating percent. Now I'm going to show you how we got that. Well, I guess we'll answer this part right here, and then I'll show you how we got that. It says, tell which operation you can use to find 1/3 of 100. Well, that's multiplication again. I guess I'll write that on the line, and then I'll show you my work. It's multiplication, because 1/3 of 100 means 1/3 times 100 over 1, which is 100 over 3. And then, even though we wrote multiplication because it is a multiplication problem, we now actually divide 100 divided by 3. Now this is the interesting part, and I think you really need these notes right here. So on the margin, you need to have these notes. We're going to do 100 divided by 3. 3 goes into 10 3 times. 3 times 3 is 9. 3 goes into 10 3 times. 3 times 3 is 9. And at this point you might notice that there's going to be a repeating pattern. If you want to do a decimal, we just go like this and annex a 0. 3 goes into 10 3 times. And you see it's just going to go on forever. No matter how many zeros you add. 3 goes into 3 times. So what we do is we put a line above that 3. And our answer is 33. We never even wrote it on here. 33.3, with a line over it, or 33 1/3. They're the same thing. How we could have done it here is if we didn't want to do a decimal, it's the same thing. If we didn't want to do a decimal, I got 33 whole, and then when I do 10 minus 9, I got 1, so it's 33 remainder 1. Well, 33 remainder 1 means 33 with a 1 over this divisor right here, which is 3. 33 with 1/3 left over. So, it is a little bit tricky, but here's what we want to memorize. You want to memorize that 1/3 is equal to 33.3 repeating percent. That's what you want to memorize. Alright, let's check out the bottom of the page. Reflect, critique reasoning. Joe says she can find the percent equivalent of 3/4 by multiplying the percent equivalent of 1/4 by 3. How can you use the percent bar model to support this claim? So I think a really good way to do this might be to redraw it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn these top two lines in right here. I'm going to turn them into a percent bar model. And the percent bar model started right here with, actually let me go look at the top real quick. Let's go to the top of the page and look. We had our percents on the bottom and our fractions on top. So check this out. You can draw it with me if you'd like. So this is 0. And this is 0%. And this is 100%. So what we're going to do here is we're going to go find 1/4 and 3/4 and start by starting in the middle. And that's a half. And 1/4 is a half of a half. And 3/4 is in between 1/2 and 1/2. And we already know that this is 25%. Now let's go reread the claim. It says, Joe says she can find the percent equivalent of 3/4 by multiplying the percent equivalent of 1/4 by 3. So is that true? Could she multiply this times 3 to get this? And the answer is you can. Because 1/4 times 3 would be the same as 1/4 times 3 over 1. And 1 times 3 is 3. And 4 times 1 is 4. So this makes 3/4. And if that makes 3/4, then I need to multiply this by 3 to make 3/4. And that's going to be 25 times 3. That's going to be 75%. So it says, how can you use a percent model, bar model to support this claim? I would say, here's my answer right over here off the right. I would say multiply both 1/4 and 25% by 3 to get 3/4 equals 75%. Here's my answer right here. Cool. Well, I hope you have those notes and I hope you understand all of that page. Good job. Let's go ahead and move on to page 205.